Hello, my name is Diana Dirkby, and I live with paranoid schizophrenia. You are listening to my podcast, Schizophrenia as I Live It. This podcast is intended to take you through my journey with schizophrenia and also my mother's journey with schizophrenia. We both lived with this condition, and to try to make you understand really how it feels to live with this brain disorder. The podcast is prompted by the publication of a book that I have authored called The Overlife, A Tale of Schizophrenia by Diana Dirkby. And it's now published, and you can find it on Amazon.com by searching for the title, The Overlife, A Tale of Schizophrenia, or just for me as author, Diana Dirkby. So if you search for Diana Dirkby, it will come up. And it's a fiction book, but it nonetheless draws very strongly on my personal experience with schizophrenia and my mother's. The reason I chose the fiction genre was for artistic liberty, and also because I wanted to leave certain people out of the story, because they were either not relevant or probably wouldn't welcome being in the book. Now, what is schizophrenia? It always surprises me that when I feel or experience stigma against paranoid schizophrenia by people that I meet or people that I know, they have usually done absolutely no research on what paranoid schizophrenia actually is. And they go more by what they see in police thrillers on TV, what they have formed in their own mind over their life about words associated with schizophrenia, like psychotic, which is a scary one for many. And they haven't even gone online and tried to find out a little bit about what you're experiencing before they completely reject you. So if you don't know anything about schizophrenia, you can certainly Google the word schizophrenia and you will come up with the National Institute of Mental Health, a little article that they've written about schizophrenia, which is very, very good. Goes through the symptoms, the treatment, the effect of the environment, and so on. So it's an excellent little introduction that you can get just by Googling schizophrenia. You'll see it come up. If you want something more in-depth, there's nothing better than E. Fuller Torrey's book, Surviving Schizophrenia, A Family Manual, which I believe is now in its 7th edition. You can find it on Kindle and as a paperback on Amazon.com. And if you're intimidated by the thought of reading a whole book, I recommend that you at least read chapter 1. Because in chapter 1, he goes into details about what it's like to live with schizophrenia. And he uses material that he's gathered through his own research and through his interviews with people living with this condition. So I'm not going to start with a lesson on schizophrenia. If you want it, those two sources, National Institute of Mental Health and E. Fuller Torrey, will do better than I would just parroting it here on my podcast. What I want to do is take you through my personal story. And as we go through my personal story, I will cover all the hallmarks of paranoid schizophrenia, the symptoms, the treatments, what makes it worse, what makes it better, how it feels. But I want to do it over the length of the podcast rather than bombarding you with facts right now. Another reason I want to do this is that I feel very, very strongly that everybody's experience of schizophrenia is unique. two different people with the same diagnosis will have a vastly different experience of this brain disorder because of their makeup, who they are, their personality, their physical fitness, their personal history, and also because of their environment. So there are many, many things that feed into just the definitions that you get if you look for a summary of what schizophrenia is. So in other words, another way to put it is that I believe very strongly that there are as many schizophrenias as there are schizophrenics. And I think what needs to be done to fight stigma is for as many people as possible who live with a mental illness as I do, although many people prefer to call schizophrenia a brain disorder or brain disease. I will occasionally refer to it as a mental illness or severe mental illness. I think that they need to write down their experience without shame and without leaving anything out. And along the way, they're going to be able to impress upon people just how harmless they are, for the most part. And that this is an internal struggle, the struggle with mental illness. And it's not an intent to harm anybody or make anybody's life miserable. And I think there needs to be more personal accounts of what it's like to live with a severe mental illness. And that is what I intend to do in the podcast. And it's what I've done in my fiction book, The Overlife, A Tale of Schizophrenia. I've given 2 points of view, the external point of view in the role of the daughter in the novel called Sarah. So the daughter is called Sarah, the mother's called Jody. And Sarah's experience of schizophrenia is modeled on mine, and Jody's experience of paranoid schizophrenia is based on what I observed about my mother. So you get the description of the mother's experience, which is more external, and you get a knowledge of what it feels like from the inside by following the daughter character, Sarah. And what Sarah experiences in her struggle with paranoid schizophrenia is very close to schizophrenia as I live it. So the book and the podcast are very much intertwined. Now, you'll be able to follow the podcast without the book, but I really recommend that you get the book. And the cheapest way to do so, if you don't want to spend too much money, is to get the Kindle book for $9.99 in America and $11.99 in Australian dollars in Australia. So that's available on Amazon.com if you're in America, or Amazon.com.au if you're in Australia. So how does Australia come in? Well, as you can hear, I was born and raised in Australia, and I've done nothing to get rid of my accent. And the book is entirely set in Australia. This is not my story. I have lived in many countries, and I lived in Britain, I lived in France, and now I'm living in the USA because I married an American, my wonderful spouse. But I decided to leave the international story out of Sarah's experience, and it all takes place within Australia. Another thing which is very different is that Sarah in the book doesn't have a career. Now, I have had a career. So in the interest of full disclosure, my real name is Paula Tretkoff, and I had a career as a research mathematician. My pen name is Diana Dirkby, because when I decided that I would devote most of my energies now in recording what I know about mental illness from my point of view, I needed to use a pen name so that the publications about mental health in the fiction genre would not be confused with the many publications I have in mathematics under my name, Paula Tretkov. However, there's no secret about the duality. Paula Tretkov is simply my real name, and I have, books on mathematics in that name, and Diana Dirkby is my pen name for the fiction novels that I am writing now, with protagonists living with a severe mental illness. The current book is very personal. So you can really learn a lot about me and about my mother from reading the book, even though it's fiction. And I go so far as to say that the fiction genre gave me a lot more liberty to be truthful than had I tried to record the nonfiction story of my life carefully. I had a lot of luck in my real life, and it's not luck which everybody has. And so I didn't want to get too far away from the common experience. And I think Sarah's experience in the novel is closer to the common experience than my experience in real life. So this is episode is really an introduction, and I would do the podcast about once a week, and they'll usually be between 15 minutes and half an hour. And I will be much more specific in the next podcast about what we're going to discuss. I just wanted to make this little video to introduce the podcast and to tell you that it's about my personal journey with paranoid schizophrenia and about the fact that there's an accompanying book. So I do hope you'll check back next time and listen to what I have to say. And I thank you for listening today.